Have you ever felt like the whole world is screaming at you, telling you who to be, what to chase, and how to live, while your own voice is getting quieter every day? That silent frustration building inside you isn't just exhaustion. It's your soul begging for peace, begging for space, begging for you. But instead of listening to it, you keep scrolling, comparing, reacting, explaining yourself to people who wouldn't even notice if you disappeared tomorrow. You're pouring your energy into a world that's draining you, and deep down, you know it. It's not that you're lazy, it's not that you don't care, it's that the noise around you is louder than the voice within you. And that voice, the one you've been ignoring, is the only one that truly matters. Right now, you might be surrounded by opinions, distractions, expectations. Everyone has something to say about your life. They question your decisions. They want to know your plans. They laugh at your silence because they don't understand it. But let me tell you something powerful. You don't have to answer to anyone. You don't need their approval. You don't need their permission. The more you explain, the more you hand over pieces of yourself. The more you respond, the more control you give away. And if you keep giving yourself away like that, there will be nothing left for you. Imagine, for just a moment, what your life would look like if you turned the volume down on the world and turned the volume up on yourself. Imagine the peace you'd feel waking up and not needing to prove anything to anyone. Imagine what you could build in silence, without interruptions, without criticism, without noise. This isn't about shutting the world out because you're afraid. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about focusing so deeply on your own growth, your own healing, your own mission, that you stop noticing who's watching, who's judging, who's misunderstanding you. Because none of that matters. It never did. Staying silent in a loud world isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's strength. It's clarity. And it gives you something most people will never have: freedom. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, you become unpredictable. You become unshakable. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop chasing and start becoming. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who know exactly who they are and are too busy building to explain it. That could be you. That will be you if you choose to stop giving away your power. This is your wake-up call. This is your turning point. The noise won't stop, but you can walk away from it. You can choose to listen to yourself instead. And if you stay with me, you'll understand exactly why silence isn't the end. It's the beginning of everything. The real you is waiting in the quiet. Let's go find them. Silence isn't just the absence of words, it's the presence of strength. The world has taught you that being loud means being powerful, that the one who speaks the most commands the room. But what they never told you is this: real power moves in silence. The strongest people you'll ever meet don't need to announce themselves. They don't seek applause. They don't chase recognition. They stay quiet because they're focused, because they've learned the truth. The louder you are, the less you're listening. And when you're not listening, you're not growing. You've been pulled in every direction. Opinions, arguments, endless distractions begging for your attention. And every time you respond, you give a part of yourself away. You let the world tell you how to think, how to feel, how to live. But silence gives that power back. It creates space for clarity, space for intention. It allows you to hear the thoughts that actually matter, your own. When you stop speaking just to be heard and start listening to your inner voice, something shifts. You start to notice what drains you. You recognize who's really in your corner. You realize that most people talk because they're afraid to be alone with their thoughts. But not you. Not anymore. Because the moment you embrace silence, you begin to separate yourself from the noise. You become harder to read, harder to shake. People can't figure you out. And that's the point. When you're silent, they have to guess. And when they guess, you stay in control. Not because you're hiding, but because you're building. You're building discipline, building focus, building a life on your own terms. You don't need to explain your process. You don't need to prove your worth. Every second you stay silent, you reclaim your energy. Every moment you stay focused, you become more dangerous to the version of you that once settled for less. There's a quiet kind of confidence that comes from knowing you don't need to convince anyone. That confidence doesn't come from shouting. It comes from results. From showing up every day, putting in the work when no one's watching. From turning off the noise and tuning in to what really matters. The world will always try to pull you out of alignment. It will tempt you to argue, to prove, to compete. But silence is your shield. Focus is your weapon. And when you hold both, you become untouchable. So stay quiet. Stay locked in. While they talk, you build. While they guess, you grow. While they seek attention, you chase evolution. Let them wonder what you're up to. Let them feel your absence. The more silent you become, the more they'll hear your presence. And when you finally speak, if you ever do, make sure your life is so loud your words are no longer needed. Stay focused, stay silent, and become someone they can't ignore. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your silence. You don't have to justify why you've pulled back, why you've gone quiet, why you've stopped showing up for everyone else. Because right now you are showing up for yourself, and that is more than enough. The truth is, most people won't understand your silence because they've never taken the time to understand their own. They want access to your energy, your attention, your loyalty without ever earning your trust. And the moment you stop giving it freely, they question your change. But your growth was never meant to be understood by those committed to staying the same. You've spent too much of your life trying to be heard by people who refuse to listen. You've over-explained your dreams to people who never even believed in themselves. You've defended your goals, your choices, your mindset, hoping someone would finally say, I get it. But you don't need to be gotten. You don't need to be approved. You just need to be free. Free from the need to explain. Free from the weight of being understood. Free from the constant pressure to please people who were never rooting for you in the first place. Let them misinterpret your silence. Let them assume, let them talk, let them wonder. Because the more you speak, the more room you give others to twist your truth. But when you stay silent, you protect it. You guard your peace, your purpose, your path. And that's what real strength looks like. Not in arguments won, not in praise received, but in the quiet conviction that you know exactly who you are, and you don't need the world to validate it. There's a kind of power that comes when you stop explaining and start evolving. When you stop answering questions that don't deserve your energy. When you stop trying to convince the world you're worthy, and instead spend every breath proving it to yourself. That's when everything shifts. That's when the noise fades. That's when clarity hits. You are not here to meet expectations. You are not here to be understood by those who refuse to grow. You are here to become, to rise, to build. And sometimes the only way to do that is in silence. Your energy is sacred. Your peace is priceless. And your time is not refundable. So stop wasting it on explanations. Stop handing over your power with every justification. Let your silence speak volumes. Let your focus do the talking. Because the ones who truly matter won't need an explanation. They'll see the transformation. They'll feel the shift. They'll recognize the strength it takes to walk away from validation and walk toward purpose. Keep moving. Keep building. Keep evolving. No more defending your journey. Let your progress speak for itself. And let the silence be your loudest answer. There comes a moment when you realize that growth doesn't happen in the spotlight. It doesn't happen when you're surrounded by noise, praise, or applause. It happens in silence, in solitude, in the spaces where no one's watching and no one's clapping. That's where you face the truth. That's where you meet the version of yourself you've been avoiding, the one with fears, doubts, flaws, but also potential. That's where you start to rebuild, not for attention, not for recognition, but for you. Because your evolution isn't a performance, it's a process. And real transformation doesn't need an audience. If you want to change your life, you have to be willing to disappear for a while. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You have to disconnect from everything that distracts you, from the people who drain you, from the conversations that lead nowhere. You have to let go of who you were so you can make space for who you're becoming. And that requires silence. Not because you're weak, but because you're focused. Because the deeper you go within, the higher you can rise without. Isolation is often misunderstood. People think you're shutting them out. They take it personal. But this isn't about them. This is about you. About healing what's been broken. About building what was never given to you. About becoming the person you needed when no one else showed up. And sometimes that kind of work can't be done in public. You don't need the opinions. You don't need the noise. You don't need the constant feedback loop of other people's expectations. What you need is space, stillness, silence. That's where the magic happens. The truth is, some seasons of your life will feel lonely, but that loneliness isn't a punishment, it's a preparation. It's the quiet before the breakthrough. It's the stillness before the storm of progress. In that silence, you'll hear your own voice again. You'll hear what you really want, not what you've been told to want, not what looks good on paper, what you want. And once you know that, once you feel that clarity deep in your bones, there's no turning back. You're not missing out by stepping away. You're not falling behind. You're not losing anything that was meant for you. What you're doing is investing in your peace, investing in your potential, investing in a version of yourself that doesn't just survive, but thrives. And when you reemerge from that silence, people will notice, not because you said anything, but because you became something. Something stronger, something clearer, something undeniable. So give yourself permission to go quiet, to go deep, to go all in on you. Let them wonder where you went. Let them question your silence, because when you come back, you won't be the same. You'll be better, sharper, or unshakable. And the noise that once distracted you will no longer reach you. You're not lost. You're just in the process of becoming. Stay in it. Stay focused. Stay silent. People start to notice when your energy changes. When you stop showing up for every meaningless conversation, when you stop laughing at things that don't feel right, when your responses get shorter and your presence gets quieter, it makes them uncomfortable because you're not playing the role they assign to you anymore. You're not easy to read, easy to access, easy to control. That silence, that distance, it speaks louder than anything you could ever say. And the ones who were never genuine start to feel exposed. They can't figure you out, and that's exactly where your power begins. Your silence disrupts the comfort of others. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're finally doing what's right for you. You're no longer the emotional dumping ground, no longer the one they can depend on to be available, agreeable, predictable. You've chosen to prioritize your peace, your focus, your evolution, and that threatens the ones who only liked you when you were easy to use. Let them feel the shift. Let them sit in the space your silence creates. Because not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone should be allowed to walk through the door you worked so hard to build. When you stop explaining, stop responding, stop entertaining things that drain you, you begin to take your power back in ways you didn't even know you gave it away. Silence is not weakness, it is strategy. It forces others to reflect. It forces you to reflect. It creates a boundary that doesn't need to be spoken. It sends a message that you are no longer available for anything that does not serve your highest self. And when that message is clear, everything around you begins to shift. You start to attract peace instead of chaos, depth instead of surface, or purpose instead of distraction. The right people begin to find you, not because you were loud, but because your presence has changed. Your silence becomes a filter that reveals who respects you and who just needed something from you. Let it reveal, let it clarify, let it protect you. And when people react to your silence, when they try to pull you back into the noise, remember, your response is not required. Not everything deserves your energy. Not every invitation needs to be accepted. Not every opinion matters. You do not owe anyone a version of yourself that you've outgrown. You are allowed to grow in private, to heal without sharing the details, to evolve without broadcasting every step. That's your right. That's your power. Keep your vision clear. Keep your energy guarded. Let the world talk while you build. Let the silence do what noise never could. Reveal the truth, sharpen your focus, and protect your peace. You're not disappearing. You're elevating. And every moment you remain silent, you step deeper into your strength. They'll feel the difference. They'll notice the change, but they won't know how to stop it. And that's exactly how it should be. There is nothing more powerful than a person who is fully focused and completely silent. No warnings, no announcements, no need for attention, just deliberate, disciplined movement in the dark. That kind of person becomes unstoppable, not because they talk about what they're doing, but because they're too busy doing it. In a world addicted to noise, stillness becomes intimidating. And when that stillness is fueled by purpose, it becomes lethal. Most people crumble without constant feedback. They need approval, applause, and reassurance to keep going. But when you decide to lock in and cut the noise, you step into a rare kind of power most people will never touch. Focus is a weapon in a distracted world. The more you guard it, the sharper it becomes. Every time you say no to distractions, to drama, to empty conversations, you're sharpening that weapon. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, silence over argument, growth over comfort, you're creating distance. Distance between who you used to be and who you are becoming. And that distance is everything. That's the gap most people refuse to create because sitting alone with your thoughts, your doubts, your weaknesses, it's uncomfortable. But on the other side of that discomfort is transformation. You don't need motivation when you're focused. You don't need outside noise to push you. Focus becomes the fuel. It becomes the fire. The goal becomes the only voice that matters. And when that happens, your entire energy changes. You stop broadcasting your every move. You stop chasing validation. You stop wasting time explaining your vision to people who can't even see their own. Because now you're in execution mode, locked in, zoned out from the nonsense, dialed into your mission with a silence so deep, it's deafening to anyone who thought they knew you. And they'll feel it. They'll feel your absence, your distance, your disinterest in the games they still play. Some will call it arrogance, or others will call it coldness. But that's only because they're used to the version of you that stayed small to keep others comfortable. That version is gone, replaced by someone too focused to fold, too hungry to hesitate, too disciplined to explain. So let the world run its mouth. Let the noise continue. Let the chaos swirl around you. You're not part of it anymore. You've stepped into a different frequency, one where peace is power, one where progress is silent, one where every ounce of energy you have goes into becoming, not performing. Keep your head down. Keep your circle tight. Keep your intentions pure. Let your silence become the sound of transformation in motion. Because when a focused person goes quiet, the world should be paying attention. That's not the sound of retreat. That's the silence before something big. You are not just growing. You are preparing. And when the time comes, your results will make more noise than your words ever could. Stay locked in, stay silent, become dangerous. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like staying calm when you're disrespected. Sometimes it's not reacting when you're provoked. It's choosing not to respond when someone tries to pull you into chaos. That kind of strength comes from within. It's emotional control, the ability to stay grounded when everything around you is shaking. Most people live in reaction mode, triggered by opinions, by disrespect, by anything that challenges their pride. But when you learn to control your emotions, you stop being controlled by the world. You stop giving away your peace just to prove a point. You stop losing yourself just to win an argument. There's a deep power in stillness, in choosing silence over impulsive words, in walking away instead of exploding, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to protect your energy. Anyone can react, anyone can lash out. But it takes discipline to pause. It takes wisdom to choose peace when chaos is handed to you. You don't need to match their energy. You don't need to defend yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Emotional control means you decide when and where your energy goes. And when you master that, you become untouchable. People may think you've changed, that you've become distant, that you don't care, but they don't understand the work you've done to reach this calm. They don't see the battles you fought with yourself to stop being controlled by emotions that once ruled your life. Anger, insecurity, doubt, pride. You've outgrown those impulses, not because they disappeared, but because you stopped feeding them. You stopped reacting to everything. You stopped needing to win every confrontation. You realize that sometimes peace is the real victory. Every time you stay calm, you win. Every time you choose silence, you grow. Because emotional control is not suppression, it's transformation. It's taking the heat that once burned you and turning it into light that guides you. It's using discomfort as a mirror, not a weapon. It's seeing your triggers as teachers, not enemies. And the more you practice that, the more unstoppable you become. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. There is nothing more powerful than a calm mind in a chaotic world. Nothing more dangerous than a person who doesn't need to react to be in control. The ones who can sit in silence, hold their ground, and walk away from anything that doesn't serve their growth, those are the ones who rise. Because when you stop being a prisoner to your emotions, you start building a life based on vision, not reaction. Purpose, not pride. Focus, not fear. Let them try to shake you. Let them throw their noise, their opinions, their drama. You won't flinch, you won't respond, because you know who you are, you know where you're going, and nothing they say can take that from you. Emotional control is your shield. Silence is your strength. Keep both close. Stay calm. Stay centered. Stay free. Words are easy. Actions are rare. Everyone talks. Everyone has plans, dreams, promises. But very few follow through. Very few stay consistent when the excitement fades. Very few keep building when no one is watching. That's what separates the talkers from the doers. That's what defines the ones who change their lives. They don't explain what they're going to do, they just do it. No announcements, no need for approval, just quiet, focused action every single day. While others waste time explaining their intentions, they're already living in the results. That's the difference. That's the edge. The loudest one in the room is rarely the most disciplined. It's the one who works in silence, who builds something that lasts. You don't need to prove yourself with words. You prove yourself with consistency, with how you move, with how you show up. When you say nothing and just keep building, something powerful happens. People begin to notice not what you say, but what you do. They start to feel the shift. They see the difference, not because you told them, but because you became it. There is no energy louder than action. And when that action is rooted in discipline, silence becomes a storm. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're not chasing validation. You're simply too committed to your path to waste time on empty conversations. This world rewards results, not noise. And when you show up daily with intention, the results start stacking, quietly, steadily, and eventually undeniably. There is no shortcut, no hack, just the day-by-day process of aligning your actions with your vision. That alignment creates momentum. That momentum builds identity. That identity becomes your foundation. It becomes who you are, not because you said it, but because you lived it. Let others talk. Let them broadcast every little move, every little goal. You know better. You understand that every ounce of energy spent trying to be seen is energy taken away from the work that matters. You know that growth happens in the quiet, that breakthroughs are born in silence, that real power is built when no one's clapping and no one's watching. And when the time is right, your results will speak so loudly you won't need to say a word. Your presence will say everything, the way you move, the way you carry yourself, the peace in your eyes, the discipline in your habits. That's your message. That's your proof. So keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, let your life be your voice, let your work speak louder than your promises, because the world doesn't believe words anymore. It believes patterns. It believes results. And when you show up, no one will care how quiet you were. They'll only care how far you've come. Let your silence echo through your progress. Let your actions become undeniable. You don't need to say it. Just become it. Your energy is not unlimited. Every thought, every reaction, every conversation takes something from you. The question is, are you giving your energy to what builds you or what breaks you? Most people don't even realize how much they're wasting. Arguing with people who don't matter, engaging in drama that doesn't grow them, overthinking opinions that don't pay them. And by the time they want to focus on their dreams, they're exhausted, drained, burned out by things that didn't deserve their attention in the first place. Protecting your energy is not optional, it's survival. If you don't guard it, the world will spend it for you, piece by piece, until you forget who you even are. You have to treat your energy like it's gold, because it is. You can always make more money, but you can't get back time. You can't undo the hours you gave away to distractions. You can't recover the clarity you lost to pointless arguments. Every day you have a choice. Waste your energy trying to be everywhere for everyone, or direct it toward becoming the version of you no one has met yet. That version is waiting, but they won't arrive if your energy keeps getting stolen by people who only show up to take. Silence is protection, not just from others, but from yourself, from your old habits, from your desire to respond to everything, from the pull to be involved in things that don't align with your future. When you go quiet, you regain your power. You stop scattering your attention, you stop leaking energy into chaos, and you start creating something solid, something sustainable, something sacred. The deeper your focus, the stronger your foundation. The less you engage with noise, the more clearly you hear your purpose. You don't have to answer every message. You don't have to attend every event. You don't have to participate in every conversation. When your vision is clear, your boundaries get stronger. Not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. Because the path you're walking requires everything you've got. And you cannot afford to hand pieces of yourself to people who have no idea how valuable they are. The people who respect your silence, who honor your focus, those are the ones worth keeping close. Everyone else can watch from a distance. The more you protect your energy, the more powerful you become. You start to move different, think different, feel different, because you're no longer reacting, you're choosing. You're not just surviving, you're building from a place of peace, from a place of purpose. And that's when everything changes. That's when momentum hits. That's when your life begins to elevate, not by force, but by flow. Because now your energy isn't scattered, it's targeted. It's precise, it's protected. Keep it that way. Stay silent, stay guarded. Let your growth be your boundary. Let your peace be your response, and let your focus be the shield that no one can break. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is disappear, not to escape, but to evolve. To step away from the noise, the opinions, the distractions, and finally come home to yourself. That silence you've been avoiding isn't empty, it's full of truth. And when you allow yourself to sit in it, to embrace it, you start to see what really matters. You begin to feel what you've been ignoring. The real work doesn't happen when people are cheering. It happens when no one is watching. When you're alone with your choices, your habits, your reflection, that's where the shift begins. That's where the old version of you starts to fade, and the new one quietly takes form. Disappearing doesn't mean quitting, it means committing. Committing to something greater than the approval of others. Committing to a future so meaningful that you're willing to go through the discomfort of solitude to reach it. Most people can't do this. They fear being alone with themselves. They need constant connection, constant input, constant reassurance. But that only leads to dependency. Growth requires self-reliance. It requires shutting the door, cutting the noise, and doing the internal work that no one sees but everyone eventually feels. When you vanish from the places that once distracted you, something incredible happens. You stop living on autopilot. You stop moving just to be seen. You begin to make intentional choices. You start crafting a life based on clarity instead of chaos. The world will keep spinning without your involvement in every conversation, every trend, every opinion. And when you realize that, you free yourself. You stop trying to stay relevant. You stop chasing connection that doesn't align. You start choosing peace over popularity, depth over attention, progress over presence. There is no growth without separation, or no transformation without discomfort. You can't keep becoming while staying available to everything that drains you. That version of you who is focused, grounded, unshakable, that version needs isolation, needs silence, needs distance. And that distance is not coldness, it's construction. You are building, rebuilding, reinventing, not for applause, but for alignment. So when you re-enter the world, you're not seeking acceptance, you're offering impact. Let them wonder where you went. Let them guess what you're doing. You don't owe an update. You don't need to post proof. You are in the process of becoming, quietly, intentionally, powerfully. And when the foundation is solid, when your vision is clear and your energy is aligned, you'll emerge. Not louder, but stronger. Not busier, but wiser. Not perfect, but focused. Until then, stay in the work, stay in the silence. Keep building when no one is clapping. Keep healing when no one sees the pain. Keep preparing when no one understands the path. Because the version of you who is coming cannot be built in the spotlight. It must be built in the shadows. Stay there, stay focused, stay silent. The world will feel you when it's time. You don't have to be seen to be respected. You don't have to speak to be heard. Even in silence, people feel your absence. They notice the shift when your energy is no longer in the room, when your attention is no longer freely given. It unsettles them, not because you said anything, but because you didn't. That silence makes them question everything. It forces them to look at their own noise, their own emptiness, their own need for constant attention. While they speak to be noticed, you've chosen to disappear to be different. You've stepped into a level of discipline that doesn't need to announce itself, and that is exactly what makes it powerful. The moment you pull back, the moment you go quiet, the world around you starts to reveal itself. You start to see who only came around for your energy, who only showed up when you were accessible, available, and easy to reach. And when you take that away, what's left is truth. You see who reaches out when you have nothing to give. You see who values your presence, not your performance. And more importantly, you see who you are without the noise, without the expectations, without the pressure to constantly engage. That version of you, the one who is quiet but deeply aware, that's the version who grows. That's the version who notices everything, not out of paranoia, but out of clarity. When you stop talking, you start seeing. When you stop reacting, you start understanding. The silence opens your eyes to what words often hide. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You begin to move with more intention, more caution, more precision. Your decisions become deliberate. Your boundaries become solid. Your energy becomes sacred. Let others wonder. Let them speculate. You are not here to entertain their curiosity. You are here to evolve. The longer you stay silent, the more they will try to figure you out. But that confusion is your shield. That mystery is your armor. Because when people can't predict you, they can't control you. And when they can't access you, they can't drain you. You are not here to be available to everyone. You are here to protect your peace, build your purpose, and grow into someone even you haven't fully met yet. Your presence was never about the noise you made, it was about the power you carried. And now that power is being refined in silence. You don't need the spotlight to shine. You don't need an audience to be great. All you need is focus, intention, and the courage to walk your path without needing permission. Stay quiet. Stay distant. Let them feel your absence. Let your silence shake the room louder than your words ever could. You are no longer proving yourself. You are preserving yourself. And that is where the real transformation begins. You don't need to tell anyone what you're working on. You don't need to share your goals, your vision, or your next move. The world has conditioned you to believe that progress must be displayed to be real. But that's a trap. When you speak your plans too soon, you trade momentum for attention. You give away the fire that was meant to burn quietly inside you. The truth is, the more you share, the more you open yourself to opinions that can dilute your focus. Every comment, every doubt, every bit of unsolicited advice chips away at your certainty. And eventually, what once felt powerful becomes polluted by noise that was never meant to be there. Your goals are sacred. They were given to you for a reason. They live in your heart, not theirs. No one else needs to understand them. No one else needs to approve. When you keep them to yourself, they stay pure. They stay strong. They grow in silence, undisturbed by outside energy. That silence becomes your strength, your armor, your advantage. Because while others are talking, posting, seeking validation, you're building quietly, intentionally, without distraction. There's a difference between ambition and noise. One moves in silence, the other screams for attention. The moment you stop needing to be seen, you start to gain real power. You start to move for impact, not applause. You begin to realize that the world doesn't need to know your vision. It just needs to feel your results. That's what silence does. It lets you grow in the dark so that when the time comes, your results speak a language no words ever could. Protect your plans. Let them live close to your chest. Let your actions be the only announcement you ever need. This isn't about being secretive. It's about being strategic, about understanding the value of focus and the cost of unnecessary exposure. The more you speak, the more you give. The more you give, the less you have for yourself. That energy is fuel. That focus is rare. And not everyone deserves access to it. There's a confidence that comes when you no longer need to talk about what you're doing. A quiet certainty that says, I'm on my path and I don't need an audience. That confidence is built in silence, in self-trust, in the discipline of keeping your energy where it belongs. Not scattered, not shared, but centered, committed, locked in. Let your journey unfold in private. Let the late nights, the early mornings, the quiet victories belong to you. Let the transformation be so personal, so profound, that when the world finally sees you, they have no choice but to respect what you've become. Not because you told them, but because you showed them, without words, without noise, without warning. Your silence is not emptiness, it's intention. Keep it that way. Let the results do the talking. Stay focused, stay grounded, stay silent. Silence trains your mind to listen to everything you've been ignoring. The thoughts you've buried under distractions, the inner voice drowned by other people's noise. In the quiet, those buried truths start rising. They come with clarity, with pain, with answers you've avoided. But that's the point. Growth doesn't come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from walking straight into it with open eyes and a steady heart. When you stop talking and start listening, you begin to hear what actually matters. Not the opinions of others, not the expectations they place on you, but the truth that lives in your own mind, your own soul. This is where transformation begins, in the space where you finally get real with yourself. No masks, no performances, no need to impress anyone. You realize how much time you've spent shaping yourself around what others think. You've watered yourself down to fit in. You've shrunk your dreams to be accepted. You've silenced your real voice to speak in ways they approve of. But now, in this silence, you reclaim what you gave away. You begin to build a self that's not for show, but for strength. Not for applause, but for alignment. The quiet forces you to confront the parts of you that still seek validation. The fear of being misunderstood. The urge to explain yourself. The desire to be liked. All of it comes to the surface. But that's good. Because once you face it, you can outgrow it. You can separate who you truly are from who you were told to be. That's what silence does. It strips away the noise and reveals the truth. And truth is powerful. Because from truth, you can build something real, something solid, something that won't collapse every time someone questions you. You don't need to argue for your worth. You don't need to defend your direction. The people who need constant explanation will never understand your depth, and the people who understand your silence will never demand it. You're not here to convince anyone. You're here to become, quietly, fully, unapologetically. That's how you rise, by knowing who you are so clearly that the opinions around you lose their grip. Every second spent in silence is a brick in the foundation of your inner power. You are teaching your mind to be still, your emotions to be steady, your energy to be yours again. And once you master that, the world loses its hold on you. The distractions, the critics, the pressure to be someone you're not, they stop mattering. Because you're no longer performing, you're living. And when that shift happens, everything changes. Your priorities, your boundaries, your presence. You move with a calm intensity that speaks louder than any words. People feel it. They may not understand it, but they will respect it. Because true power doesn't need to raise its voice. It just needs to stand still, unshaken, unbothered, fully focused. That's the strength you build in silence. And once you taste that kind of power, you'll never go back. Stillness is not weakness. It's restraint, controlled, and intentional. It's the decision to hold back when everything inside you wants to react. It's refusing to hand your power to anything or anyone that doesn't deserve it. Most people don't realize this, but silence in the face of noise is one of the greatest strengths you can ever develop. Because silence is not empty. It's full of discipline. It's full of strategy. It's full of understanding that not everything needs your energy. When you choose silence, you're telling the world, I control what enters my space, and I decide what matters. You can't elevate while clinging to noise. The chaos around you will always invite you to speak, to defend, to argue, to justify, but those are traps. Traps designed to drain your spirit and slow your growth. There is no power in reacting to every opinion, every rumor, every attack. Power comes from knowing you could respond and choosing not to. Power comes from being so locked into your path that distractions no longer tempt you. That's the discipline of silence. You don't rise by proving people wrong. You rise by focusing so deeply that proving anything becomes irrelevant. People won't understand your silence. That's okay. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're distant. Let them. Growth looks like separation. It sounds like distance. It feels like stillness. And that's where most people get uncomfortable, because they've tied their identity to noise. They've confused attention with importance. They don't know how to be at peace unless someone is watching. But you're learning how to let go of that addiction. You're detaching from the need to be seen and praised. You're no longer driven by what they think. You're driven by what you know to be right for you. That shift is where everything begins to align. Your habits get sharper. Your goals get clearer. Your mindset becomes unshakable. When you stop talking, you start refining. When you stop sharing, you start building. When you stop seeking approval, you start moving faster. This is not about isolation. It's about elevation. You're not cutting the world out. You're cutting out what holds you back. And in that process, your true self begins to emerge. The version of you that isn't diluted by opinions or weakened by doubt. You become a force, silent, focused, clear. You show up for yourself every day with no need for validation. You do the work not for applause, but for transformation, and that is rare. That is real. That is what makes people stop and look, not because you ask them to, but because they can feel your presence without you having to say a word. So keep your silence, guard your energy, move with purpose. Let your growth become so undeniable that it speaks louder than any words ever could. You don't need noise to make an impact. You just need focus. You just need discipline. You just need to stay locked in and let the silence carry your strength. The more you stay silent, the more you begin to see. Not just what's happening around you, but what's happening inside you. You begin to notice the patterns you've been repeating, the habits that keep you stuck, the thoughts that quietly sabotage your progress. Silence becomes a mirror. It reflects everything you've tried to ignore, and that's where power begins. Not by fixing everything at once, but by finally seeing it with clarity. You can't change what you refuse to acknowledge. But once it's exposed, once you face it without flinching, you regain the authority to rewrite the story. This is where most people hesitate. They fear their own reflection. They fear what silence will reveal, because in silence, there's no one else to blame. There's no noise to hide behind. You have to face the fact that maybe the obstacle was never out there. Maybe it was the voice in your head telling you you're not enough. Maybe it was the version of you that settled for less to keep the peace. Maybe it was the doubt you carried like a shield, protecting you from failure but also keeping you from greatness. That realization is painful, but it's also the breakthrough. Once you recognize the enemy within, you can take your power back. You stop seeking answers from outside sources. You stop chasing things that were never meant for you. You begin to build a foundation rooted in self-trust. And with that trust comes confidence. Not the loud, desperate kind that needs to be seen, but the quiet, unshakable kind that doesn't ask for permission. That kind of confidence is earned in silence, built in solitude, strengthened by repetition, and protected by boundaries no one else has to understand. The world won't celebrate this version of you, not at first, because the world is uncomfortable with those who can't be controlled by opinions. But that's how you know you're evolving. You're no longer bending to fit the mold, you're breaking it. You're no longer begging to be included. You're creating your own lane. That kind of shift threatens those still living for approval. But for you, it's freedom, it's peace, it's purpose. Keep going, keep working in silence, keep sharpening your mind when no one is watching. Every day you choose discipline over distraction, you build a life that reflects who you truly are, not who they want you to be. Every moment you resist the urge to react, you rise above the chaos. You create distance between you and everything that no longer deserves your energy. That space is sacred. Protect it. In that space, you grow. In that space, you align. In that space, you finally become. Don't underestimate the power of what you're doing. It may not look loud, it may not get instant praise, but it's real. And in time, that quiet power becomes impossible to ignore. Not because you said anything, but because you became everything you were meant to be. You don't owe anyone access to your process. You don't have to explain where you've been, what you're building, or what's next. Your growth is not a performance. It's not for display, approval, or applause. It's personal. It's sacred. And it requires silence. The kind of silence that allows you to let go of the pressure to be seen and simply focus on becoming. You're not here to convince anyone of your worth. You're here to embody it. Quietly, consistently, without apology. That's where your strength comes from, knowing who you are even when no one is watching. When you focus on yourself, you shift your attention away from the chaos, away from the opinions, the distractions, the comparisons. You stop measuring your life by someone else's highlight reel. You stop chasing validation in spaces that were never meant to define you. You return to yourself. And in that return, you remember what truly matters. You remember that your energy is limited, your time is valuable, and every moment you give to worrying about others is a moment you steal from your own evolution. So you stop explaining. You stop defending. You stop shrinking. You start showing up differently, not louder but stronger, not flashier but more grounded. People may notice, but you won't care because your goal isn't attention. It's alignment. It's mastery. It's peace. The kind of peace that doesn't need to be posted or praised. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do, even if no one else understands. That's the power of silence. It clears the space for you to hear your own voice again. There is so much noise in the world, everyone wants to speak. Few want to listen, even fewer are willing to listen to themselves. But you've chosen the harder path, the path of discipline, the path of awareness, the path of personal responsibility. You've decided to stop outsourcing your power. You've decided to build something real within yourself. And that decision alone sets you apart. Not because it makes you better, but because it makes you free. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need approval to change. You only need to keep your promise to yourself, to wake up every day and choose growth no matter how quiet it looks, to resist the pull of the crowd and stay committed to your own rhythm, to honor the silence not as an absence of sound but as the presence of self. Because in that silence you remember who you are. You reconnect to the strength that was buried beneath expectations. You rise not with noise but with clarity, not with noise but with purpose. And eventually that purpose becomes your presence, unshakable, unmistakable, unstoppable. Not everyone will understand your silence. They'll question your distance, your absence, your calm. They'll try to define it as weakness or arrogance or even failure.